Doing it for a second?
Yeah, I'll
okay.
for a second.
Werewolf the Last Warrior, he's coming out of the game, and I tried to play this one time to make a nerd video because I wanted to do something werewolf related for Halloween, and it wasn't that bad. It wasn't like hilariously bad, so you know, it's definitely playable. It's an interesting game. You turn into the wolf, you know. So basically, Dr. Mario, everybody knows, and then Werewolf the Last Warrior. Someone else should try it, basically, so that's why I'm giving it away. Someone else should try it, basically, so that's why I'm giving it away. Someone else should try it, basically. Someone else should try it. Someone else should try it. Someone else should try it.
Challenge accepted! Werewolf the Last Warrior. Well, I actually owned that game as a kid, but I never really found it all that appealing. It's like, you're done with your chores and your homework, and you got the rest of the day to yourself. If you're going to be playing Nintendo, it's going to be something like Super Mario Bros. Or Metroid. I think it's safe to say that not a lot of people's fondest NES memories came from playing fucking Werewolf. I remember playing this game on a somewhat regular basis, trying to like it. I mean, look at the cover. He's ripping his way out of the game cartridge. Wouldn't you want to play this game? But trust me, this is just a wolf in shit clothing. If you put this game in your NES, you will find nothing but frustration and annoyance. Now, the first thing I find weird is the opening sentence. No more heroes, fuzzball. Your time has come. True story? That's honestly where I thought Ubisoft got the name. Every time I heard no more heroes, I thought of Werewolf. That's not a happy connection to have in my brain. Besides, who are you calling fuzzball? If he's your last hope to save humanity, can't you show him a little respect? The game starts by introducing you to Kinju, your spirit guide and mentor. He likes to appear at the start of each level and spout off worthless advice. Be watchful for the sign of the werewolf. Pick it up and feel your power grow. Thanks, Kinju. I'll be on the lookout for that. Then he disappears and you have your first boss battle. That's right, the very first screen of the very first level and you're forced immediately against a boss. This game doesn't fuck around. Look at this guy. He's like a half-naked loincloth wearing Mr. Clean. But geez, this guy is going to kick your ass! His health bar is exactly as long as yours and he deals as much damage per hit as you do. And look at the size of his hitbox! He's not even touching me and he's still hitting me. So you're pretty much stuck in a war of attrition and just have to hope you kill him before he kills you. Look at that, I barely killed the first boss and I'm almost dead. Eventually though, you discover that you can charge up your punch by holding down the attack button and fire a ray at your enemies. Oh, gee Kinju, wouldn't that have been better advice than pick up power-ups to increase your power? I suppose it's not that big of a problem since all this information is in the instruction manual, although I do have to ask why they think it's necessary to give you that advice anyway when the manual quite clearly explains what each of the power-ups do. A little consistency is all I'm asking. Using the power ray, you can take out Mr. Clean without any problems. Sort of. Sometimes your attacks will just pass right through it. Guess what? That's his post-hit invincibility. He just doesn't flash when he's invulnerable. It's not an issue with the frame rate of the video either. You're just gonna have to take my word for it. He's not flashing. What's he even shooting anyway? No!
No! I just didn't believe you. No! Remember, your no is what gets you your next job.
Yes, this man's power is that he screams so loud it actually hurts people. Our hero! Once he's finally dead, he drops what we've been waiting for, the mark of the werewolf. Alright, let's get ready to kick some ass! Okay, seriously, that's the design you're going for? That has to be the stupidest werewolf I've ever seen. He looks like if John Talbane fucked Baraka. Look at him, he doesn't even have hands, he has like T-1000 hooks. How does he eat? How does he open doors? How does he jack off? No wonder he's so angry. Yeah, you have an anger meter in this form. I'll get to that later. Anyway, what does that sign say? Don't knock? Knock on what? The sign? Well, I'm knocking on it and it doesn't do anything, so I guess that's some helpful advice. But guess what? You're supposed to knock on the sign. In fact, you're supposed to knock on pretty much everything. Signs, pillars, platforms, the floor. You have to go around punching everything to find hearts, power spheres, hourglasses, and anger balls. What's that? It's a blue W. Well, the red W turned me into a werewolf. I wonder what the blue one does. What the fuck? Okay, so the blue W turns you back into a human. Again, wouldn't that have been something nice for Kinji to say? And of course, if you grab it when you're already human, it takes away a huge chunk of your health. so avoid the blue W's at any cost. But these fucking things are everywhere! They're always placed in such a way so as to be unavoidable once they appear, often trapping you in an area and your only choice is to take the downgrade. Now, maybe you're thinking that there's some parts of the game where it's beneficial to be a human. After all, you can shoot out that badass laser, but other than that, the human is absolutely fucking useless. He can barely jump, which is a pretty big hindrance when the game has so much platforming over instant death pits. In addition to that, he has horrible range in combat and none of the special movement abilities the werewolf has. In fact, there are parts where it's impossible to continue as the human, whether being unable to make a jump or, get this, unable to crawl. Yes, the 5-foot human can't crawl through a hole, but the 7-foot tall werewolf can! You can also do a super jump in both forms, and this is done by pressing up and jump, but only up and jump. If you press diagonal, you just do a regular jump, which completely goes against all of your gaming instincts. You have no idea how annoying it is unless you try it for yourself. What you're expected to do is hold up, jump, and then hold in the direction you want to go a fraction of a second later. But you never trust it to work, so you're constantly second-guessing yourself and waiting to make sure you actually did the super jump. And there are a few jumps where you can just barely clear the distance even with the super jump. It's just so unresponsive. Near the end of the first stage, you make it to an area with a huge pit of spikes on the ground. Well, it's time to master another aspect of this game's controls. You think the super jump is the worst of it? Good luck trying to grab onto this pipe with your claws. You have to do a super jump and grab it at just the right time, right in that split-second window when your claw is right at the top of the pipe. And it doesn't help that you tend to stick to the ceiling for a few seconds when you're flipping around in the air. Oh yeah, by the way, there's bats up here. Almost completely invisible bats that blend into the background and knock you into the spikes if they hit you. Oh, wonderful. There's also wall climbing, which is an ordeal and a half. Oh, it's not getting onto the wall that's the problem. You can do that without even trying. In fact, I defy you to get through this game without sticking to every goddamn wall you see. But no, the real problem is trying to get off of them. You'd think you could just hit jump, but no, that would be too easy. You have to hold away and jump. And just like the super jump, it has to be away, not diagonal away. And guess what? Once you're in the air, you better be careful not to get close to another wall or you're gonna stick to that one too. And by the way, the wall climbing is almost completely useless. There's maybe 1 or 2 segments in the entire game where you're forced to use it to advance, but for the most part, you could just make it through with a super jump. Now eventually you'll ask the question, if the human has a charge attack, does the werewolf have one as well? Why yes. Yes he does. Would you like to see it? Yes, you just saw that correctly. The werewolf's special charge attack is that he hurts himself. It takes off about 1/3 of your health, but if you do it when enemies are on the screen, it kills all of them. The justification of this is that your power ray attack is so powerful in this form, it actually hurts you as well. Due to the strength of the weapon, you too will suffer damage and lose life points when you use the power ray as a werewolf. Just because you can justify it in the game universe doesn't mean it's a good idea. Why would you ever do something like that? As unresponsive and annoying as the combat is, you can usually get through the battle without taking much damage. And usually the enemies will just immediately respawn and all you're left with is 1/3 less health. Just like the wall climbing, there's almost nowhere in the game where you would need to use this. Maybe against one of the early bosses, but even then, it's only if you get there with completely full health. So for our heroes, we have a man who screams like a pussy, and a werewolf whose superpower is that he hurts himself. All they have to do is team up with a girl with an eating disorder and they can form the League of Super Emos! Oh jeez, I forgot about this part. Welcome to the laboratory. This is your first introduction to the soldiers from Dr. Fairy and they look like putties from the Power Rangers. They like to jump out and yell, "Oh!" before they start shooting at you. Unless they come from the left, in which case they say, "Ho!" Well, what better way to approach a hoe than from behind? And I'm sorry, but get ready for a massive tangent, because pretty much everything that's stupid about this game can be summed up in this one segment. When they jump out, they like to yell, "Oh!" Is that really the best they could come up with? Oh! Why not stop, or halt, or freeze, or Achtung? It doesn't make them sound threatening, it makes them sound surprised. You could literally pick any other word and it would probably make more sense than "oh." Hell, if they even said nothing, just an exclamation mark and a word bubble. That would be better because at least then it would be symmetrical. Which brings me to point number 2. If they approach from the left, they say "ho." Well, technically they say "bang ho" if I remember my typography, so interpret that however you will. But yes, all they did was flip the sprite horizontally, even though it meant causing the word bubble to make absolutely no sense. Of course, it didn't make much sense to begin with, but the point is, it's just lazy. All of this game reeks of laziness. Even the other power-ups you find are lazy. Half of them are just different colored spheres which all do completely different things. I could have come up with better sprites in about 2 minutes and I was 5 years old when this fucking game came out. Oh, what? You think I'm done? No, I'm just getting started. These guys have annoyed me for the past 20 years. I am finally getting my revenge. When you kill them, which is rarely any trouble, they drop a gun. Sweet puppy testicles, they actually have weapons in this game. And it's really impressive too. Watch how awesome this gun is. Watch. Yeah, and guess what? One bullet. That's what you get. One single solitary bullet. I suppose it's sort of helpful because you can kill the putties from across the screen, but they just respawn infinitely anyway. And by the way, you're gonna love this. You ready? You can't use the gun as a human. What?! A werewolf with no hands can use a gun when a human can't?! Who designed this? Who thought that was a good idea?! Why do you have a fetish for making the human in this one of the most useless characters in video game history? This game could have been so much better if they actually made both characters equally useful. What if the human could crawl and use guns, and the werewolf can climb walls and use his emo quake? It would force you to choose one or the other and pick your path based on your current set of abilities. But nah, fuck that, it's called Werewolf, so you have to be a werewolf, and if you're not a werewolf, you might as well just start the fucking level over. When you play this game, you have to approach it like something like Silver Surfer. Either you play it perfectly and get every power up without taking any damage, or just completely restart the fucking game. There is no middle ground here. If you turn back into a human, just give up, you're already fucking dead. And even with everything we've seen so far, you know what the most frustrating part is? I'm not even done with the first fucking level! That's right, there's still more to this stage before you reach the boss, namely random laser beams that you can only get through with careful timing and luck. Or if you figure out how, you can do a backflip by pressing jump and attack at the same time, which renders you completely invincible. At least until you hit the edge of the screen, which refuses to scroll unless you're walking. And by the way, I know it goes without saying, but you can't do a backflip as a human. So like I said, if you become a human, just give up. After an annoying boss fight with a slime monster that likes to turn into invincible flubber, you start on level 2, Mad City. Oh, you bet I'm fucking mad by now. There is much value in the underground waterways, but also much danger. You may find avoiding trouble is as valuable as confronting it. What the hell does that mean? I can't even get through 10 minutes of this game without finding something that makes me want to tear my nuts off in frustration. Avoiding trouble is as valuable as confronting it. How about you avoid my foot up your ass? Seriously, what the fuck am I doing here? Who the hell is Kinju? Who the hell is Dr. Farian? Where the hell am I? Is this even Earth? Or for that matter, who the fuck am I? Beyond being called Fuzzball, I don't even know who the fuck I'm playing. Well, you know what? Maybe these answers are provided for you in the free collectible comic book that came with the game. Yeah, collectible my ass. It's about as collectible as Duke Nukem Forever gum. Well, Well, one thing I will say about this comic is that the artwork is not that bad. Oh, don't get me wrong, the comic itself is just as lazy as the rest of the game. The story is stupid and the pacing is absolute shit, with maybe 3 or 4 panels per page at max. But it actually does a decent job of setting up the world of the game. Apparently, Werewolf was originally a tribal warrior named Werewolf. Yeah, pretty fucking clever, eh? And Dr. Farian is a genetic scientist working for the Pentagon. While vacationing in the hills of South Dakota, he awakens an evil spirit that possesses him and tries to use his scientific knowledge to take over the world. Of course, he does this in the only way you'd expect a cliché supervillain to do so, by loading a space shuttle full of glowing green science juice and firing it into the upper atmosphere. Technology! The fuck was that? This causes the entire world to start changing into a mutated wasteland full of slime monsters and man-eating bats and fish. Werewolf, who was conveniently hiding in a cave at the time, is given the power of the werewolf by his spirit animal and leaves to take down Dr. Farian. So once you know the backstory, the game does make a lot more sense, but it doesn't change the fact that it's still absolute excrement. In fact, I think it makes it even worse. Reading this comic, it makes you think the game is going to be awesome, put you in the mood to run around beating robots and slime monsters, but nope, let's have you walking around a city with falling blocks and dynamite being thrown at you. God damn, these creatures are really annoying. They keep dropping down from the sky and your only option is to stop and kill them before they hit you. And as soon as they jump away, they immediately come back. So what can you do? You have to keep inching forward, killing them one at a time. Is this fun? Am I supposed to be entertained by this? Inching forward and killing a constantly respawning monster? It's just tedious. Fuck it, I'm out of here. I don't care if I took some damage, at least I'm through that. Is this what you want to be doing? Is it really a good sign of a game when you're willing to hurt yourself just to get through it faster? Once you reach the end of the street, you end up climbing a skyscraper to face Metalhead, and you're forced to contend with instant death lightning bolts that come out of nowhere. If you're paying really close attention, you can move out of the way in time, but if you hesitate for even a second, you're dead, and there's nothing you can do about it. And of course, Metalhead is a total pain in the ass. If you get here with full health, you can maybe take him out with your power ray attack, but if you're human, just give up, you're never going to beat him. Or if you take the time to get through the game by collecting every power-up and avoiding damage, you'll actually be able to max out your anger meter and become Super Werewolf. Every time you come across a power-up that would have been a red W as a human, it instead becomes an anger ball. Collect 5 and you get to become Super Werewolf, who is stronger, faster, jumps higher, and deals more damage. But it only lasts for about 30 seconds, which really sucks because usually it takes the entire level to collect enough anger to reach Super Werewolf status. And as soon as you collect the last ball, it activates. You can't even hold on to it until you really need it. This is pretty much the only surefire way to defeat the later bosses in the game, just through a war of attrition. In Stage 3, you start to encounter these assholes with jetpack dropping dynamite on you, who never stop spawning. As soon as you kill one, another one immediately respawns to replace it. Combined with these ninja fuckers, you can never seem to hit before they hit you, so your best bet is to keep to the lower caverns, but this is where most of those insane instant death jumps are, including ones that are impossible to clear without being the werewolf, forcing you to just commit suicide. Not to mention there are stalactites all over that fall down the same second you jump off of a platform. Fuck! 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 Fuck!
You know what? I'm convinced. The developers of this game hate you.
There really is no other explanation for this. The only way to get through this level is through ball-clenching trial and error and rope memorization. They give you absolutely no warning when a stalactite is about to fall. Is there any way this game can possibly get more annoying?
Why do I keep asking these questions?
Sure, let's replace the background music with an annoying siren blaring every 2 seconds. Even when Mr. Clean drops down for the 200 billionth time, they don't even change it to his music. No, they thought it was imperative to keep giving you the sirens. They're that important. If you can believe it, the boss of level 3 is even harder than Metalhead. You like that? Do you expect anything else from this horrid pile of festering wolf feces? You don't even want to know how long it took me to finally defeat this asshole. Your only option is to memorize his pattern and master frame-perfect dodging and attacks. There are no health power-ups in this arena, but there is a blue W if you want to take 8 points of damage and turn back into a human. Lovely.
And once you defeat him, I honestly have no idea what happens next. Here, see if you can make sense of this.
It looks like Dr. Farian was victorious after all. Werewolf has been swallowed into the sea, and the world was swallowed up in a future of evil and darkness. Oh well, game over. Too bad it... Oh, it goes on. But it appears Werewolf was not meant to meet such an early fate. He arises to fight again.
Gee, you really had me going there for a fraction of a millisecond.
Seriously, are they really trying to give this game a plotline at this point? What kind of sadistic psychopath would ever make it this far and still care? I have, and I don't. Stage 4 is where any sane person or werewolf would just go, you know what, let Dr. Farian win. Because this stage is impossible. Not only do you have to contend with more jetpack motherfuckers throwing dynamite at you, but then there's these fish jumping out of the water like crazy. You thought the stalactites were bad? Look at this. And of course, you can't swim. At all. But they did design original sprites so you get to see a werewolf struggle in vain as he sinks into the river. Oh sure, use the exact same design for 3 power-ups, but create custom sprites for your drowning werewolf. Such an efficient use of company assets. The only thing you can do is try to inch forward and fake them out, but then the next one gets you and lets you punch in midair. And of course, like the last level, there's no way to know the first time through, so you just have to memorize it.
Is this supposed to be fun? What is so fucking hard about making a game that you could beat without falling for every single goddamn bullshit death trap a dozen times before you finally brute force your way through the level? This is not fun! Why am I still playing this?
Fuck it. The boss of this level is just called Monster. Real creative, isn't it? He sucks, but at least he's not as hard as Fireman. Barely. In level 5, you're finally back on semi-solid ground. There's still instant death pits everywhere and jetpack assholes, but at least there aren't any fish up here. Eventually you reach Dr. Farian, the final boss.
And you know what? As much as I bitch about the lazy sprite work in this game, the final boss is just as lazy.
Well, the first form of him is, at least. He drinks a serum that turns him into a pallet swap of the werewolf, and you'll never guess the secret to beating him. Crouch in the corner and punch. That's it. Just crouch and punch him every time he gets close. He'll go down faster than a hooker on rent day. Time for the happy fanfare, during which nothing happens.
Come on, we know there's a second form to this boss. Let's just get it over with.
You're not fooling anyone, game. Let's go. The timer is still counting down. I know there's going to be a second form. Come on.
I'm waiting!
There we go. And he's one of those cliche final bosses that just uses all the powers of your previous bosses. But you'll realize your biggest threat in this battle isn't Dr. Farian in his Magneto Halloween costume, it's the timer. After going through Mr. Clean, your werewolf doppelganger, and the unskippable fake-out cutscene, you'll have maybe 3.5 minutes left, and you're going to need every last second of it because this asshole has several attacks where he is completely invincible. And there's nothing you can do except wait for him to use an attack that makes him vulnerable. Look at this shit, I've run out the clock waiting for him to stop teleporting around the damn screen like this. Finally, Farian goes down, and you're treated to Werewolf posing triumphantly with the American flag. Fuck you.
This may very well be the hardest, most frustrating, laziest NES game I've ever played. Now, you could argue that something like Taboo or Wall Street Kid is technically worse in the sense that they're just boring. But with Werewolf, you were suckered in with promises of kick-ass plot lines about mutants and tribal spirits of vengeance.
It gave you a comic book to get you pumped up for some awesome werewolf action, but ended up giving you lazy sprites, wretched level design, impossible jumps, horrendously overpowered bosses, bullshit instant death booby traps, and tediously repetitive gameplay with redundant power-ups and annoying, constantly respawning enemies. This picture doesn't represent Werewolf's defeat of Dr. Farian, it represents the developer's contempt for the American people.
That's how I feel after playing this, like a wolf just pissed on my leg. And that's what Data East was doing. They were marking their territory. Because you know what? The Japanese version was actually kinda decent.
Yeah, can you believe it? Joujin Okami Senki, or Superman Wolf Soldier. If that name doesn't make you cream yourself, I don't know what will. Now, it's no masterpiece by any stretch of the imagination, but the level design actually makes some modicum of sense. The levels just flow better. There are way less useless dead ends, and the variety of enemies in each level is a lot more diverse. However, the later stages are almost all identical, but almost all of the indoor stages have been modified to be way more enjoyable. Or should I say, the American version was modified to be way less enjoyable. If the game interests you at all, play this version, because it's clearly the alpha of the group. Or you could just have a wolf bite your cock off and get the same experience.
So there you go, James. Someone finally reviewed Werewolf. I hope you're happy. You're never gonna fucking see this video, are you? I need to play something else for a while. I need to get away from Nintendo and all these games that haunted my childhood. I need to get outside. This is Zero, and I'll see you in the next broadcast from the Video Game Bunker.